What we're watching unfold right now is not normal. President Trump just got the Department of Justice to indict Letitia James, the New York Attorney General who successfully prosecuted him for fraud. She's now facing federal bank fraud charges. And here's the kicker. Trump demanded this publicly on Truth Social last month, posting in all caps, "Justice must be served. Arrest Letitia James now." Weeks later, on October 9th, 2025, she was indicted by a federal grand jury. The charges? Bank fraud and false statements over a mortgage she took out in 2020 for a property in Virginia. Before you think she actually did something wrong, consider the timing. Trump publicly called for her arrest. She's the same person who successfully sued him and won. This doesn't pass the smell test. James came out swinging, holding a press conference where she said Trump is compelling federal law enforcement to carry out his wishes solely because I performed my duties as the New York State Attorney General. And honestly, that tracks. This isn't the first time Trump has demanded prosecutions of people he doesn't like. James Comey, Adam Schiff, the list goes on. This is what people are now calling presidential revenge. Here's what allegedly happened. In 2020, James bought a property in Norfolk, Virginia, and took out a mortgage. On the application, she said it was going to be a secondary residence, but prosecutors say she actually rented it out. Because she called it a secondary residence instead of an investment property, she got better loan terms. The indictment claims she saved $18,933. Does that sound like a massive federal crime? Does that sound like something that normally gets a sitting state attorney general indicted? Or does it sound like something that usually gets handled by the bank or a civil penalty at most? Let's not forget, Trump himself was just found liable for inflating the value of his properties by hundreds of millions of dollars. Letitia James brought that case. She won. The court ordered Trump to pay hundreds of millions in penalties, and now suddenly she's getting indicted for something that happened 5 years ago for less than $20,000. What we're really talking about isn't just one indictment. It's whether the President of the United States can use the Department of Justice to go after his enemies. And the answer, right now, seems to be yes. This should scare you. I don't care what side you're on. Because if presidents can just direct prosecutors to indict whoever they want, then we don't have justice anymore. We have revenge. We have political warfare. We have a system where the law is a weapon, not a protection. Even if James wins, even if these charges get thrown out, the damage is done. Her reputation is tarnished, her credibility questioned. And that's the point. You don't have to convict someone to destroy them. You just have to indict them. Trump knows that. He's been on the receiving end enough times, so now he's flipping the script. Let's break down what they're actually accusing her of. In 2020, Letitia James bought a property in Norfolk, Virginia. On the mortgage application, she checked the box for secondary residence, meaning she'd use it herself for weekends or vacations. But prosecutors say she rented it out, making it an investment property. Investment properties have different loan terms. Higher interest rates, stricter requirements. By calling it a secondary residence, she allegedly got a better deal and saved $18,933. Is that technically fraud if she did it? Yeah, probably. But here's the thing. This kind of thing happens all the time, and almost never results in federal criminal charges. Usually, if a bank finds out you misrepresented your mortgage application, they adjust your loan terms or charge fees. But a federal indictment for less than $20,000? That's insane. The average mortgage fraud case that actually gets prosecuted federally involves hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Fake documents, fake identities, schemes to defraud multiple lenders. This is like checking the wrong box on a form. But Letitia James isn't just anyone. She's the woman who went after Donald Trump, and that changes everything. In 2022, James filed a massive civil lawsuit against Trump, his company, and his kids, accusing them of inflating property values to get better loans and tax breaks. The judge found Trump liable and ordered him to pay hundreds of millions in penalties. It was a career-defining case for James, and Trump was furious. He's been ranting about it ever since, calling her a racist and calling the case a witch hunt. Then last month, he posted that Truth Social message demanding her arrest, and now she's indicted. The timeline is so obvious it's almost insulting. James said it clearly in her press statement. Trump is using federal law enforcement to carry out his personal vendettas. The DOJ will say they're independent, that this was a grand jury decision. But the DOJ doesn't operate in a vacuum. The Attorney General serves at the pleasure of the President. When the President publicly calls for someone to be arrested and then they get arrested, you don't need to be a conspiracy theorist to connect those dots. This is what people mean when they talk about the politicization of the Justice Department. Trump has been doing this with multiple people. James Comey, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, but Letitia James is the first sitting state attorney general to actually be indicted. That's a line that just got crossed. What does this mean for the rule of law? If a president can use the DOJ to go after political enemies, the entire system breaks down. The whole point of an independent justice system is that no one can weaponize the law for personal vendettas. And right now, that's exactly what's happening. Legal experts agree this looks really bad. One former federal prosecutor told NPR that cases like this almost never go to trial, and that this has all the hallmarks of a politically motivated prosecution. Even some conservatives are uncomfortable with this because today it's Letitia James, but tomorrow it could be anyone. Maybe the point isn't even to convict her. Maybe the point is to make her life hell, tie her up in legal battles, make her spend money on lawyers, make her look bad in the press. Because even if she's acquitted, people will remember the headlines. And that's how you destroy someone's career without ever proving they did anything wrong. Let's be clear about what's happening here. The charges are weak. $19,000 in a case that would normally never be prosecuted federally. The timing is incredibly suspicious. Trump called for her arrest, then she got arrested. This is retaliation. James successfully prosecuted Trump, cost him hundreds of millions of dollars, and now she's being indicted for something that happened 5 years ago. This sets a dangerous precedent. If Trump can do this to Letitia James, he can do it to anyone. Governors, senators, judges, prosecutors, anyone who gets in his way. And if this becomes normal, if presidents can use the DOJ as their personal enforcement arm, we've lost something fundamental. We've lost the idea that the law applies equally to everyone. Where does this go from here? James says she's going to fight, and I believe her, but fighting takes time, money, and energy. That's part of the strategy. Even if she wins, she's been distracted and neutralized. Meanwhile, Trump gets to claim victory and feed his base. The real question is, what happens to everyone else? What happens to the other prosecutors investigating Trump? What happens to the judges who ruled against him? Are we going to see a wave of politically motivated prosecutions? If the answer is yes, we're talking about the collapse of the rule of law. So what can we do? We can pay attention. We can call this out for what it is. We can refuse to let this become normalized. We can support people like Letitia James who are standing up to this. We can demand that Congress investigate and that the media keeps covering the story. This is bigger than Trump. This is bigger than Letitia James. This is about what kind of country we want to be. Do we want to be a country where the law protects everyone equally? Or do we want to be a country where the law is a weapon for whoever holds power? Trump demanded that Letitia James be arrested, and then she was. And now we're all supposed to pretend like that's fine. But it's not fine, and we all know it. This is just getting started, and it's going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better.